it's Briar Harvey. Welcome to another episode of Systems Are Messy. Today I am here with the beautiful Shanna Mann and her beautiful red lipstick. So at some point you will probably have to tell us about the red lipstick because, we are still all makeup people here.
It's so cliche. It's MAC Russian red.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. Okay, so,
There, that's done.
all right, that's done. So tell us what you do in your not Mac time.
Okay, so I run a warehouse that preps inventory for Amazon. So in order for Amazon to give you 2-day shipping, they have a massive behind the scenes network of warehouses getting things situated so that wherever you are, whatever crap you want is less than 2 days away from you. So in aid of that mission, we prep items so that they are specifically packaged so that Amazon's robots don't have any problems with them. It's actually kind of hilarious how much the needs or the limitations of robots control how we do things.
And I don't think people really understand how much of Amazon is actually run by robots, but I think they might be frightened to learn it, to be honest.
If not robots, then like programs. And
Right.
so a lot of it is just learning the limitations of the programs that you're forced to interact with.
Which Shanna does very, very well. She likes to get in and poke around the programs and figure out what works and what doesn't work and then exploit them because
that's what I do.
That's what
I'm
you
a huge
do.
fan of leverage. Like what is the most impact for the least amount of effort?
Which I think actually plays into how you plan shit. So you recently found Rome, right?
Yes. And it was completely random. A friend of mine is taking Tiago Forte's Build Second Brain course.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of him showing me some sort of a plan, he showed a screenshot that was a screenshot of a note of a piece of the course. And in that screenshot that somebody else had commented to the effect of like, I do it this way and then I just push it over to Rome. And like, I thought I was aware of pretty much all of the major productivity softwares out there. I mean, I'm not super on top of it anymore, but you kind of hear about these things. So anyways, Rome, what's this? I had to go and look into it. And I was completely 150% sold the moment they said bidirectional linking.
Mm-hmm. So Rome Research, for those of you who don't know, and it's still in beta, which means it's still free. It won't be for much
for like
longer.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think
like.
it's going to be for too much longer. I am still kind of getting things set up for myself over there, but even though I don't use it daily yet, I will still be paying for it because it's a hell
Agreed.
of a program. It's amazing. So bidirectional linking, and tell the folks at home how that works.
Oh my God, it's so glorious. Okay, so although I run a warehouse, I have a lot of thoughts in my head, and for the last, decade plus, I just write a lot because that's how I kind of, honestly, the alternative would be that I would have to like basically talk somebody's ear off because I don't know what I think until I say it out loud, more or less. So anyways, I write to continue to maintain relationships. And the problem is that after so many years, I built such a colossal body of work that I could not wrap my arms around it. I couldn't tell you what my themes were, except in the most general sense. I could not point you to any particular piece of content because I'd written them in so many places.
And I was just about to say, where was it all before? Because, man, I have been on the receiving end of many Slack diatribes over years. So, like,
I
you
have to
put
add
this
that.
stuff in a lot of places.
Right. Like, so, back when personal blogs were a thing, I had a personal blog, but then like it became impossible to get people to read them there. So then you would post them like wherever I thought people would interact with them. So sometimes I did a guest blog. Sometimes I would just write it in a Google Doc and then email it to people to be like, read this, please. I'll love you forever. I just need to know somebody saw this. Slack. I have a few Slack groups that I basically have used for caged audiences. Um, Sometimes on Facebook. I keep thinking Medium, but like I don't really want strangers to read it. I want people that I know to read it and um, um, engage with it in their own lives, because I feel like whenever I write something, I immediately know who might use this, and like I want to direct their attention to it. It's less relevant to me whether perfect strangers read it and have a change in their lives. So, anyways,
You're
it's
not
all over the
about
place.
converting the masses, and you never have been
No,
about
I really haven't. Yes, I'm sorry to say I could give a about the masses. So, anyways, I work at the micro level, we'll say. And yeah, so they're in email, they're in Slack, they're like ages and ages worth of morning pages or journals, or like notebooks where I just scribbled down 6 ideas and it was 3/4 of an essay, and then I got distracted and moved on. Um, so
folders and folders of that shit of my own. So what are you doing with it then? Are you moving it all into Rome and then tagging or creating, page linking as you go through and add them in? What are you doing?
So somewhat, it's a little bit difficult because again, I'm trying to run my life and my business at the same time as I have this terrific backlog. So like what actually happened is that like 2 or 3 years ago, I almost completely stopped writing because I got to the point where I was just like, there's no point in me continuing to write new words without referencing the old words. But I could not find a way to reference it. So I actually hired somebody to build me a freaking spreadsheet of all of just the blog posts on my blog, and like tag them and maybe like loosely put them in a category, because I was like, I am completely incapable of like seeing the themes of my thing, because I tend to write in like really deep metaphors that like are invented anew every single time, so I don't even have keywords that I could be like, I'm going to look at all my personal productivity ones. Like there's nothing like that. So yeah, I had somebody read my entire blog and like put it in a spreadsheet for me. But even then, I was like, even though I could take the bare bones of that and now sort of go back to something that might have been on topic and reread my stuff and be like, could I cross-link to that? Could I improve on that? It's incredibly terrible interface to try and cross-link to a live blog,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you want to try and edit it. Like WordPress is
Not great for that
right, like
in
maybe it's
any
just me, but I
way.
cannot handle editing in WordPress. So yeah, so I just kind of like, I was like, yes, this is the next iteration of my internal writing life, and I can't do this right now. And probably never could I do this, because like it's just this way of tagging things so that they would become kind of a wiki was such an impossible task to me, especially when they were all live at various places. Like I had grand plans of, being able to like nested folders that had the digital assets, like the freaking the images that were alongside of it and the
But
shareable
the
whatevers.
top level organization, when we're at that level, becomes so overwhelming to manage.
Right.
As someone who
Exactly.
creates that shit, I can say quite definitively that at a base level, you reach a point where there's just too many different branches to manage. And
Right.
so you can't find anything. It doesn't matter that it's organized because you can't find it.
Right. Or like I can find it, but like by the time I'm 6 levels deep in my nest of
Right.
folders, I've forgotten what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's honestly been a really big problem for me, is the sort of limitations of my working memory. Like, um, I had a brain injury and I had chronic fatigue syndrome, and like, look, I have the memory of a goldfish, okay? I can't remember. People have told me like, oh, just use Google Drive, you can stick everything in there. I'm like, look, I can't remember what I named things. And if I
Right.
can't remember
And
what I named things, I will never find it again.
search is not that great or intuitive for finding little snippets of what was that thing that I was thinking about, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not what I named it and it's not right.
Right. And like, especially snippets of ideas or partial ideas or whatever, like if I give them all their own document, it's unwieldy. And if I give them like stick them all in one document until they grow into something else, then it's still pretty unwieldy because you have to find something within like what to me is usually like a 20 plus page document. So what Rome gave me was this sort of atomic model of connecting things where it could be as big or as small as necessary. Each piece of it could be as big or as small as necessary. Um, Keywords and stuff could be linked together
Hmm.
uh, in such a way that would make them like that you wouldn't have to use the same keyword, but you could group similar keywords and then kind of hook them all together in one search query to find everything that was sort of semi-related, right? Whereas if you otherwise had to do like and or statements in pretty much anything, it was
Hmm.
just awful search results. So at this point, I'm most excited for it for the way that I can, from a personal knowledge management point of view. I know everybody's using the term personal knowledge management when they're talking about like linking to articles and book reviews and notes and things like that. But for me, I just really want to know what I know because, I've always been really self-educated and a lot of what I do when I write is figuring out what it is I think I know, how I know it, how much I know about it, and like just kind of find find the edges of my own knowledge and then like try and push them a little further. So that's something that like can't be contained in working memory and a lot of it is stuff that sort of surfaces in different ways at different times in your life. So it's definitely worth like getting in there and mucking around in a very organic way if you could possibly find a way for it to be organic. And I never ever could with any other, file structure system
Hmm.
before. And I know some people have talked about making wikis or using Notion to make a wiki and that sort of thing, but I always looked at those tools and I was like, this requires too much rigidity. I will never be able to make this work. So Rome was the very first thing that I came across that I was like, this doesn't require any rigidity whatsoever. It could, some places could benefit from rigidity, but it's not required. And most of all, I don't have to know what the structure will look like going in because
Right,
editing the
because you can
tags is
just
so
start
easy.
writing in Rome.
Right,
Don't have to, it's a couple of brackets or a hashtag, and
right.
this is what as I'm going through writing this thing, I would like to highlight this thing. And that's it, which makes it just so brilliant.
Yeah. And I mean, some friends of mine have been like, oh, I couldn't learn the language. And I was like, well, can you post on Reddit? Because
It's
it's just
markdown.
markdown. A couple of it is a little bit of a learning curve. Like for instance, when you put in square brackets or round brackets, um, that leaves your cursor in the middle of them. So then you have to like make sure that you get the cursor out of there before you press return or whatever.
Tab, but you just tab out of the
Yeah,
brackets, and
right.
it is a little bit of a
Yeah,
learning curve, I agree,
right,
but nothing compared to the learning curve of, say, Notion, which
right,
took me 2 fucking years to figure out how to use and to
right.
maintain. And now I have reached this other threshold where I'm like, how much time am I spending managing all of this
Yes,
database? And is that actually a good productivity type use of my time? And in some cases, the answer is no. I'm getting rid of, I was doing all of my menu planning in here. It took so much fucking time to set that up every week. I'm back
hmm,
to pen and paper.
right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like in some cases, like you need to be able to hook systems together, and I think Rome is going to be really robust that way. And in some cases, you just need to be able to export
Hmm.
systems easily. And for instance, I'm not going to be able to use it for any sort of it's not going to scale beyond me. So like for my business, everything has to live outside of it. Like let's see. even to-dos and stuff will probably have to be exported. It's all right for stuff that just I have to handle, but for larger projects and stuff, that'll probably have to go out to Trello or something like that. But I'm not at all concerned about that because it's so robust and so powerful from the knowledge management side of things, and just really working with me in the way that I think, because I think I like a lot of people have recommended ways to get your arms around a plan or an idea that never really worked for me. They worked well enough for me that I was like, I guess this is the best tool we have. So brainstorming or mind mapping or outlining or whatever. I have project management friends who seem to think in Gantt charts. That's just how they think, and it makes no difference. There's no friction between the way that their brain is tackling the project and how it comes out on the keyboard. Well, that's not me. For me, the most effective way of project planning I've ever found is just a brain dump. And so that usually what I have been doing is it'll be a brain dump on paper first until that document becomes so unwieldy that I have to move to Google Doc or something. And then the Google Doc becomes so unwieldy because for some reason Google has to take up the entire screen with white space that's completely useless. But at least I can link to, or I can have a bunch of tabs open so that it's linking to my to-do list or to my calendar or to my emails so that I can email people about this brilliant idea I just had. And it's workable, but barely. And it becomes increasingly unworkable as the project scales.
Mm-hmm.
So Rome at least has a way of both atomizing and scaling that seems to work with the way that I think. So I'm not saying that it's the magic bullet for anybody else, but for me, as soon as I saw it, I was like, holy crap, where have you been all my life? And I think this bi-directional linking, from what I've seen on the Rome Cult hashtag on Twitter, seems like it seems like people have been oh, why didn't we think of that? And seems like they'll implement it in a lot of different places. Because it's not enough to be able to, because for a while there, I was hooking up a bunch of Google Doc pages so that I could nest Google Docs
Mm-hmm.
together.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a big pain because you have to go and you share and then you get the fancy link and blah, 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 blah. And then of course it opened in a separate page and you couldn't share the pages because again, stupid white space. And you couldn't shrink them. What I love how each of the bullets can be shrunk
Mm-hmm.
in Rome so that you only have to look at the part that you need. So anyways, a
The
lot of it just
sidebar
so
is
works for
helpful
me.
too. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. I actually bought a big monitor because I was for years, I obviously saw the point of a dual monitor setup, but never really could be arsed because I was so spread out that I was just you know what? I can't be limited. But now I'm I have to have Rome open at all times. My life now is not real unless there's a Rome window open so that I can harness my thoughts. Because
So,
otherwise they're
how are
gone.
you reviewing and processing? It's
Right.
open all of the time. How often are you going through this?
As of yet, not at all. Right now, I'm trying to get as much information in there. I'm
Okay.
thinking of it as kind of a KonMari thing, where I'm getting all the stuff of a type in there, and so that I can look at it all in one place. And right now, I don't have a great way of bringing all of the, for instance, projects together. Something about there's a hashtag tag and an attribution tag and a square brackets page, and kind of they're all treated the same way and kind of they're not. So I'm not 100% clear on how what the best way will be to organize that. But I feel I don't have enough stuff in my database yet to make a good thing. But I did buy, there's some guy named Anonymous, right? How
Okay.
is that name not taken? So some guy named Anonymous did a 20 video tutorial on Rome, which is really good. And then another guy named Nat Eliason has a paid tutorial for Rome, which I bought because apparently if you spend $100 on his tutorial, that gets you $100 worth of credit whenever Rome starts charging. So I was like, oh well, I might as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because from the sounds of the buzz on Twitter, they'll start charging like June, July latest.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I've been looking at Nat's course too, because Nat is fantastic and he knows his shit. So
Right. Yeah, the very first thing I found in Rome wasn't Rome, obviously. It was his Medium. No, I guess it looked like a Medium article, but everybody's blog looks like Medium these days. So, anyways, it's like nataliason.com/Rome. And it's a super article about how he uses Rome. And another thing I'm really excited about is using Rome as a CRM, a sort of a lightweight CRM,
mhm.
because if you do the daily log, which I think is underrated, especially with how I'm using it. I think tech people understand the use of a daily log and have the routine of a daily log much more so than I do, especially now that my business has me offline so frequently. But a daily log is really useful for just being like, what are you doing with your time? Which I'll be the first to admit, I have no freaking clue most of the time. So
It does. It's helpful to be able to go, this is the thing that I did today.
right,
These are the projects that I interacted with. And with Rome in particular, you can do it at the beginning of the day. Yeah, but you also have the ability to go back at the end and go, this is what happened.
yeah,
To, to die is just as easy to
right.
write down as to do.
And the greatest thing is like you can go in there and be like, I talked with Briar today. I did this. I did that. And like when you name people,
Mhm.
they have their own page. So if you're like, shit, I haven't talked to Briar in a while. I wonder when the last time I did was. I can click on your name or search it in my database and be like, oh yeah, we talked, blah 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 blah. Because otherwise, time marches on. A week might be a month. This whole COVID thing.
And
March
we
was
have
like,
much
did
larger
it happen?
networks too. Like that's
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 the
the
other
thing
thing.
I found about my CRM is that every time I go in and add new names, and let's be real here, it's not me. It's my VA adding new names. And every time that happens and I go in and look at the list and it gets longer and longer and longer and I'm like, I don't even know who all of these people are. Apparently I do, but like
Right.
it gets really overwhelming.
Right. At this point, people in my CRM, which is to say a freaking spreadsheet of people I know, are people that I basically have to either text with them, like I have your cell number and you have mine, or I email with them like reasonably frequently, not your newsletter. And or you're in one of my private Slack groups and I can DM you there. Like if I can't like have a one-on-one conversation with you, I don't feel like I won't call you one of the people I know, except in the sort of like stalkery sort of way that we feel about people these days.
Right. Those are the people that I add to my CRM, the people that I'm stalking. And I have literally used that word before. And now we're not even bothered by it. I'm stalking you online. Oh, right. Well, that's a thing you have to do now
Well, that's the thing.
because,
Like I feel like I can only stalk somebody. I'm stalking with the intention of escalating to a
right.
one-on-one conversation. And if I never get there, then I can't. I still don't know you. I might still want to know you, I guess. Possibly. I don't take rejection well. Uh, but you're not like in the circle of people that I'm going to consistently kind of try and reach out to.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. There are people like that, like for instance, when I found Rome, or when I find something that I'm really excited about, I'll reach out to them even though they barely know me and be like, oh my God, you have to see this. And
I
like
got
sometimes
that
they write
email.
back and sometimes they don't.
I got that email about Rome.
And it's so nice actually because if I have those contacts sort of at my fingertips,
Hmm.
a week later when I'm like, what did I do? It was all the blur. I go to my sent folder and I'm like, oh, I talked to a lot of people about this thing that I was totally excited about. And now I'm on to the next thing. Like Chris, my husband says I'm like a freaking terrier, the ones that chase like rabbits or whatever, like straight down the hole. You can only see my little tail.
I find this to be a fairly accurate analogy for you,
Right?
yes.
One time he like popped his head into the office and I'm like grinning like an idiot at nothing. And he's like, "So what are you chasing?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm halfway to China." I would tell you, but I literally don't know how to explain it to you at this point. I'm too deep.
And this is why I love you. So, what we'll take that as the answer to what do you wish you could do better. Shanna both wishes she could rabbit hole less and she could do it more effectively.
Yeah, like yes, I would like to do it both less and more.
So tell us what you do well when it comes to planning.
Oh, when it comes to planning. Okay, so this might sound weird, but like I'm like whenever something comes up, it's almost like I have a plan already 3/4 formed because I think in terms of like contingencies and like what ifs. And it's like a mental game that I would play where I like just spin up these scenarios and like little mini war games in my brain or something. Uh, so like, okay, just before COVID-19, and we were joking about the run on toilet paper. And Chris is like, "You know what? We should get a bidet." And I was like, I was just researching bidets, and I have a couple picked out in the Amazon wish list.
I love it.
By the time we got there, they were all sold out. So, anyways, so that's kind of what I do, is that I do have kind of an eye on the
Future
horizon.
future projections. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree. I'd say you do that very well.
So like the actual boots on the ground thing, because of the way that I've already been like checking out long-term planning, I have already this is again the problem with my memory of a goldfish thing. I've already thought of and discarded for various reasons other strategies or other plans, and I forget why. unless unless that stuff is written down somewhere where like I pencil and paper diagrammed the pros and cons or something, I'll be like, no, that was a bad plan, but for reasons I don't know. Trust me.
Frequently we do. I will say that frequently we do just trust you with the fact that that plan has been rejected and we don't need to know why. It was just a bad plan.
You know, that used to bother me a lot, but now I've just been like, you know what? They trust me because I have proven to myself to be trustworthy. And we're
Correct.
just gonna let that ride.
We're gonna let
I'm not
that
gonna sit
ride,
here and
Shanna.
convince you that you shouldn't trust me because that's counterproductive.
Oh, evolution. It's so amazing. All right. Any final thoughts to wrap this one up here?
Oh, I think the most important thing to realize is that you're gonna get much, much more out of Rome if you put more into it. So like a couple of people have called it like an idea garden or idea cultivation or whatever. And I do think that you have to go there like it's your own personal sandbox and just sort of sift through it, sort of, sort of laid back, meditative sort of way. You know, Saturday morning cup of coffee, go through there, add tags where you're, go through the last week's worth of edits or whatever and add tags where like maybe you didn't add tags or didn't realize you had tags. I think you could probably err on the side of being very keyword rich, even though it's gonna like make your typing look really weird because every other word will be a keyword. But I think that kind of like pruning where you go in and you add all of the keywords and then you go through the keywords and you kind of merge some of the tags together so that the pages are good.
My only complaint about Rome, I think, is that right there, that you cannot, that tags don't, you can't tag multiple things and have it hit one tag. But
Well, I mean, it's not so if you have projects with a capital P and projects with a lowercase p and then like a singular version of either of those, it's not a problem to go in and be like, I'm going to merge these tags.
Yeah, you can merge the tags, but you can't have projects with a capital P and projects with a lowercase p. It will count them as two separate
Right.
tags entirely.
Right, which makes, like, for instance, when you're typing or if you're going back to read the pages that you merged, you're going to look at that and you're like, why is this capital P in the middle of my sentence? But overall, I think that's like a small price to pay, that it's not going to be like perfectly grammatically correct. Yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Or you could go through and like syntactically put your tags at the beginning of the sentence or the end of the sentence or
That's way too much work.
the content block, and like
that's too much fucking work.
Right, exactly. I think that there's, and a lot of people are doing things that are just like freaking emojis because of the whole like block of text problem. And I haven't really found like a good like working like speed typing way to add emoji in there. But sounds like the Mac
On
really
your
have a
keyboard.
Right. It sounds like the Mac really have a leg up there because they've got like a special character.
No, Windows has it too if you're in
Windows
8.
10.
Yes, Windows 10 now.
But I'm not on Windows 10 yet.
Oh.
So I'm waiting for my new computer.
Oh, that's right. We're still waiting for the new computer.
That's
Once
right.
you have it, it's Windows period, and then you're there, baby.
Excellent. Yes. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is adding some more visual elements. They're also doing some good stuff about like being able to import files and images. So there's like a PDF import, which is pretty good, I would imagine, for like especially note-taking purposes. But the image import for like diagrams and stuff will also be excellent. I don't use a lot of diagrams, but when I do use them, I have to use them. So anything that didn't support images was going to be really difficult to manage. But
yeah, for me, that stuff all still goes into Notion because I'm trying to keep Rome as basic as possible, deliberately so. It makes it more sandbox-like for me if there's not a lot of extraneous information there. But that's my personal use. So
I would agree. Like, everybody's got to figure out like how Rome fits into their personal app ecosystem. So for me, it's going to be like thoughts, all of my thoughts and the progression of the thought to writing. And then when it finally gets published, I got to make sure that I go back in and tag it as published and where the freak that thing got published.
yes, I do. I have several places where I keep track of that bullshit too, because you gotta, because it goes everywhere now.
Right.
There's so
and
many
that's
places.
The thing is, some people are doing some really good stuff. Like, I'm not deep enough into it to have workflows and routines yet. I'm mindful of the fact that I am going to need it, and that's also why I purchased that course, is because I figure I'll take somebody else's workflow before, for the time being, before I try and work out my own workflow, just to get me functional faster. So those workflows where you like have a sort of GTD style weekly review where you go through and you do these things on this checklist, I've got to get one of those installed. I don't have that yet. I know I need to, but like I'm still at the point where I don't yet know what I don't know.
You could borrow the idea of the momentum planner and plug that in.
Okay. I think I'm going to do that because it's already on my list of things to review, because I like the whole goal planning, specifically the success pack thing. I think because I'll be able to organize my thoughts and my notes and my writing so much more effectively, I'll be better at like bringing people into the loop. Whereas before it was like, I'm going to zoom into the room, blurt out this thing I'm excited about, and zoom back out, and you won't hear from me for 3 months.
Consistency. So that's amazing. The fact that it's giving you consistency really is quite a gift. So, and that's what we'll leave it with, I think. So I will have notes below for some of the stuff that we've mentioned. Do the likey and the subscribey and, click the buttons, and we will see y'all later. Bye.